What if I told you that the most successful people in history all had one thing in common? They were willing to leave behind what felt safe, pursue something greater. Have you ever felt God calling you to something bigger, but you're holding on to what feels secure? Maybe it's a job, a relationship, or even just your comfort zone. Hey, friends, thanks for joining today on Leading with Bill. I'm Bill Martin, your personal leadership coach, and this is where biblical wisdom can transform your leadership and life. Over the past year plus, I sense that God's Spirit has been nudging. There's been this internal restlessness that I just couldn't ignore. When I hear the words of Jesus saying, "Follow me," my heart leaps out of my chest. I want to follow him more closely and more deeply, but what does that look like for me? What does it look like to step into that calling, that purpose? If you're watching this video, then I believe you sense something similar. You feel an internal pull, a desire to do something more meaningful, more significant. But have the same question. What does that look like for me? Today, we're starting a new series called The Call to Follow. And we're beginning with one of the most dramatic career changes in history. It's 4 fishermen who left everything to follow Jesus. And I promise you, their story will challenge you on how you think about following your own calling. Let's dive deep into the Bible today. And we're going to look in Matthew chapter 4. We're going to read in verses 18 through 22. So picture this scene with me. So as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. Now they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. Now going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. And Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boats and their father and followed him. Now let's understand what this really means. They weren't just casual fishermen. This was their livelihood, their family business, probably their entire identity. Peter and Andrew were casting nets, and they were actively working. James and John, they were with their father Zebedee, and they were preparing nets. Now, this was a family operation and probably passed down through generations. So when Jesus said, "Follow me," he wasn't just asking them to add something to their schedule, asking them to abandon everything they knew for something completely unknown. Think about the risk here. I mean, no guaranteed income, no business plan, no safety net, literally. And they were leaving their nets to follow a traveling teacher they probably just met. But notice Jesus' promise here. "I will send you out to fish for people." He wasn't asking them to abandon their skills. He was asking them to redirect their skills toward a greater purpose. And here's what amazes me. The text says they left at once and immediately. No committee meetings, no pros versus cons list. Now let me think about it. They recognized the call and responded with immediate action. I lived this exact moment in the weekend of July 4th, 2025. After more than 25 years in corporate roles and HR leadership, I had to make my own leave the nets decision. I had everything those fishermen had: security, steady paycheck, benefits, good reputation, and a really good career. All the nets that felt safe. And the feedback that I received was I was good at what I did, had influence, respect. Honestly, it was comfortable. But for months, maybe even a few years, God had been stirring something in my heart. I felt called to serve others through leadership coaching and to help people discover their purpose and develop their potential. But every time I thought about it seriously, fear would creep in. What about my mortgage? What about retirement planning? What if I fail? What will people think? And here's the big question. What if I'm wrong about this calling? Those were my nets, not fishing nets, nets of security and predictability and this perceived control. At one point, a few months back, I told my wife, that's it. I can't do this. There's no way I can pursue this. In fact, I'm just going to bury this. I'm going to put away this idea of being open about my faith in Jesus and coaching others to grow in their leadership and in life. Just going to bury it. And then a turning point came when I realized I wasn't just holding on to security. I was holding back from the very thing that God created me to do. And just like those fishermen, I had to choose between what felt safe and being obedient to God's direction in my life. Walking away from that security to follow this calling felt terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The day I submitted my resignation, I was nervous. Also felt certain in this decision. But you know what? Just like those fishermen, I had to trust that following the call was worth more than clinging to what was comfortable. Over the past few weeks, I've learned a few things. God doesn't call us to abandon our skills, he calls us to redirect them toward his greater purpose. My years of experience in HR and leadership, it wasn't wasted. It was preparation. Every difficult conversation, every leadership challenge, every person that I helped develop, it was all training for this moment. I know that I'm not the only one who's been wrestling with this. But let's talk about your nets. What are you holding on to that might be preventing you from following your purpose or your calling? Maybe your nets look like a job that pays well, but drains your soul. Maybe it's a relationship that's comfortable, but it's not growing. Or perhaps it's a lifestyle that impresses others, but leaves you unfulfilled. Or maybe you fear what people will think if you make a change. Or maybe your net looks like you need to have everything figured out before you take that first step. Here's what I've seen. Our nets aren't always bad things. Peter's fishing business, it wasn't evil. It was legitimate, profitable, and respectable. The corporate roles that I had were really good. I respect the companies I worked for, and I value the relationships I had with my team. Sometimes good things can become barriers to great things. Question isn't whether your current situation is bad. Question is whether it's where God is calling you to stay. And here's the thing about following. It requires courage to leave comfort zones, greater purpose. Those fishermen didn't know where Jesus was taking them. They knew who was calling them. And normally, the topics I share about are for people who aspire to lead. But this applies to anyone, whether you're in an official leadership role or not. I am convinced that you are made on purpose and for a purpose. No matter your age, gender, your ethnicity, your beliefs, or anything else, you have a purpose. Are you ready to take one step? Here's my encouragement to you this week. Identify one net that you might need to leave behind to follow your calling more fully. Maybe it's a limiting belief or a comfortable habit or a fear that's holding you back. Now let's take that bold step together. Leave a comment below and share what's one net that you feel called to leave behind. I'd love to hear your story and encourage you on your journey. Your vulnerability might be exactly what someone else needs to take their very own first step. Now, are you someone who has also felt this pull, this tug in your heart, and you said, there is a greater purpose in calling out there for me, but how do I jump into it? Or are you someone who feels the stirring within you? You're just not sure what your purpose or calling is. I'm here to help. As a leadership coach, I'd love to walk with you through that journey. I have something that's an easy first step for you, and it's free. This free resource is a values-based leadership assessment. Your values are personal and core to who you are and how you live. Identifying and understanding your values is foundational as you discover that you are made on purpose and for a purpose. Just click the link in the description below to get this free resource. I'd love to share it with you. And remember, following isn't always easy. It's always worth it. Just like those fishermen discovered 2,000 years ago, when we leave our nets behind, we don't lose our identity. We discover our true calling. Friends, thanks for joining me today on Leading with Bill. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and we'll see you next time.